What is up, guys? It's your boy Genghis Garrett, and I'm here to welcome you to our amazing and wondrous Crash Course video. Me, Genghis Garrett, I'm here with Democracy Dom, Mussolini Mike, and you can't forget him, Fascist Fody. Let's get started with a rundown of everything that's happened in our great big world since 1900. Here we go. Kick it. What is up, guys? It's your boy Genghis Garrett, and I'm here to give you the backstory and the happenings of the Great War. Great War. Great War. Starting off around 1900, Europe was doing pretty great. Spiffy, some would say. In this period after the Industrial Revolution, there was growing tensions between all the different countries here in Europe. Not to mention, nationalism was at its peaking point, as displayed by this beautiful man in the meme right here. Alright, now let's get down to this, how this oddly monumental war went down. All the tensions finally hit their peak when it says here, the Black Hand, a Serbian nationalist group, assassinated Archduke Ferdinand. We were going to call Fascist Fody here, who's behind the camera, Ferdinand Fody, but then we would have to assassinate him, and that's not very nice. Anyways, this war was the first total war for the United States and a lot of other countries, meaning that everyone in the country was involved in the effort. The United States used the conscription, or draft, as well. Even women were involved, taking care of the jobs that men left when they went to fight. This helped launch the feminist movements that are still present today, as women saw they could do what men could do. Meanwhile, on the front lines, the war was fought for inches. Here's another meme, guys. Trench warfare was very present in this war of the world. While the men were in the trenches, waiting to die, they often got trench foot from the wet and muddy conditions. Then, the Treaty of Versailles was set into place, which left Germany with quite a lot of reparations. In the end, Germany got blamed for it all, which set quite a trend for the future events World War II. The Great War. Was just one of the many events that launched political and economical, among many other changes here in period 6.
Fascist Fody here, giving you a little insight on decolonization. Decolonization played a key role in this period because of multiple independent states that were now established due to Europe's lack of resources after the Great War. With the development of nationalism and self-determination of the colonies, Europe couldn't hold on to them. However, Europe didn't always leave peacefully. The Sepoy Rebellion was a good example of how those in India rebelled against the British rule. Even though the British then tightened their control on the Indian state, the increased nationalism was shown. In 1928, when the Allied powers discussed what should be done with Germany, a decision was reached to turn Eastern Germany into new independent states. These states included Finland, Austria, Yugoslavia, Poland, Lithuania, and many more, as shown in the map. Meanwhile, in Africa, many states went through rebellions and political changes and had hard times creating social and political systems. One of the political and social systems was apartheid. Apartheid was common in South Africa and was a political system where the minority white men ruled. These men enforced segregation, which ended up sparking many rebellions and tensions between the South African people.
The Second World War, also known as the crisis deemed by FDR, is definitely a time period to remember. From the mass genocide of the Jews to the Battle of Iwo Jima, lots of people died as Hitler attempted to conquer all of Europe and eventually the world. The whole world started when Hitler decided to annex Austria to unify the German-speaking people. Then after the Treaty of Munich was made, Hitler agreed not to invade or annex Czechoslovakia, yet he did anyways. Originally, the US decided not to engage in the war effort against the Axis powers, but had to get involved. Gosh darn kamikaze. Back to Europe, also known as the main battlefront. Blitzkrieg, the main tactic used by the Axis powers, was working great. It wasn't very great for the Allies. Creating the Aryan race was Hitler's main goal before conquering the entire continent of Europe.
Yeah, boy!
The Holocaust, one of, if not the worst mass genocide in the history of the world. With the lack of resources in the world due to the previous World War, the whole world had mobilized everything in their nations just to try and gain the advantage in the war, just with sheer numbers and forces and firepower. The technology developed was invented and or improved just to take out as many soldiers, bunkers, and or artillery nests as possible. The major development was the first step into the world we know today with weapons of mass destruction. As President Eisenhower stated, "We can't have this type of war. There just aren't enough bulldozers to scrape the bodies off the streets." The atomic bomb developed during the Manhattan Project is the main focus. With successful tests that proved the bomb to be destructive, 2 bombs with the code names Little Boy and Fat Man were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, essentially forcing the Japanese to surrender and sign peace treaties with the countries they were at war with, officially ending the war in the Pacific.
What is up, guys? I'm back, your boy Genghis Garrett, and I'm here to tell you that World War II, it left quite a monumental mark here on the world. As you can see, there's many different things. You have the United Nations that came to power. Obviously, the League of Nations failed, and there's a lot of different things that were brought to power, just like the Cold War here, that Mussolini Mike is going to tell you about. So, see you later.
Mussolini Mike here to give you some tips on communism and the Cold War. Communism is based off the ideas of this dude, Karl Marx. Marxists found home to their beliefs in Russia, also known as the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union spread their communist influences to places such as China, North Korea, Vietnam, Cuba, and Afghanistan. Chinese communism developed through the actions of Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong established the 5-year plan to gradually shift China to communism. Mao Zedong also led the Great Leap Forward, an attempt to westernize China in order to catch up to the European powers. Seeing these branches of communism, the United States decided to take action as the only other superpower in the world, following World War II. The US fought to contain communism in North Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and in other conflicts such as the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cold War wasn't really a war, though. The Cold War consisted only of tensions between the Soviet Union and its communist influences, and the United States and its democracy. These tensions were fueled by the nuclear arms race and the threat of nuclear warfare. The Cold War lasted until 1991, when the USSR fell apart under their leader, Gorbachev.
What is up, guys? It's your boy Genghis Garrett, and I'm here to tell you that we forgot to talk about the Great Depression. It was, well, quite depressing, you would say. I mean, it was an economic recession that happened because everyone was buying stuff on credit and there wasn't enough capital to be moved along. This led into the good old World War II that Democracy Dom talked about, and if it wasn't for World War II, I would say that the United States and all the countries in Europe would have taken a very long time to pull out of this great depression. Here in this short video, brought to you by a bunch of AP World Masterminds, we covered the vital aspects of Period 6 from 1900 to now. Whether it was World War I, decolonization, World War II, or the Cold War, the countless interactions between different countries led to the many different changes politically, economically, and culturally. A thank you. Thank you very much.
Knock, knock. Who's there? It's Orange. Orange who? Aren't you glad I didn't say banana?